I just reinvested hundreds of thousands of dollars into the sports card hobby, but it's not the way you might expect. I'll give you all the details in today's Sports Card Investor. My name is Geoff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me and my team as we help you profit from the hobby we all love. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to a special episode today. I'm excited to talk to you about the fact that I have doubled down on the sports card hobby in a big way. I have written checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars to get back into the sports card hobby in an even bigger way than before. Why am I doing this? It's because I continue to believe in where this hobby is going long term. And I truly believe that the value of sports cards and the value of the hobby as a whole is going to be much greater 5 and 10 years from now than it is today. I don't know that I'm right. I can't predict. I don't have a crystal ball to know that that's going to be the case for sure. But what I do have is a lot of evidence of other very smart investors who are placing that same type of bet. And of course, there probably is no bigger example of that than Fanatics. Last year, we found out that Fanatics was getting into the hobby and getting into the hobby in a really big way. Of course, they have since acquired Topps and the Major League Baseball license. And in the upcoming years, they'll have the NFL license and the NBA license as well. And when you look at the numbers, when you look at the dollars that Fanatics invested, it tells a very clear story. Fanatics and their investors believe that this sports card hobby, 5 to 10 years from now, is going to be worth several times, many times more than it is today. They think the hobby right now is just in its early stages. They've got very smart investors that are placing big bets, billions of dollars, around the idea that that is going to be the case and that we're going to see explosive growth for years to come. And you know what? I believe them. I think that's going to happen as well. I believe those investors that do this professionally every day. And part of the reason why I'm so excited about it is because Fanatics venture, their new trading card venture, they've given ownership to the sports leagues themselves. For the first time in the history of sports cards, in the near future, we're going to have Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NFL all owning part of this sports card business. They're going to directly profit off of the growth of sports cards. What is this going to motivate them to do? It's going to motivate them to take sports cards more mainstream. It's going to motivate them to incorporate sports cards into television broadcasts. I believe that when you're watching Sunday Night Football, 5 years from now, the starting lineup might be introduced by showing their brand new sports card. I think you're going to see that. I think you might see sports card stores appear in stadiums. And I think you might see Fanatics' incredibly broad advertising arm where they do all kinds of big advertising during games now. I think you might see them get behind doing a ton of advertising for sports cards during both sports broadcasts and just even normal television as well. As soon as that starts to happen, our hobby starts to explode. And if you think sports cards are a big thing today, I think they're going to be a much bigger thing down the road. And that's why I am doubling down, and that's why I am writing big checks. But this last big check that I wrote, these last couple of big checks, they weren't for cards, and they weren't for sealed wax. Instead, I invested in other up-and-coming businesses in the sports card hobby. Because as an investor, there's multiple ways that you can invest. You can buy things like cards or wax that you think are going to go up in value over time. And obviously, I've got a big portfolio of cards and wax that I've invested in. But you can also invest into businesses. businesses that are producing revenue. Because if you believe that a particular industry, or in this case, the hobby, is going to grow long term, then you should also believe that the businesses within that hobby, if they've got the right products and if they've got the right founders, that those businesses should grow and thrive along with the growth of the hobby itself. And that's what I believe is going to happen. And so today, I want to introduce you to two founders, two entrepreneurs who started their own businesses in the sports card hobby. They did not have a background in entrepreneurship, but they took the leap. They had good ideas and they took the leap. And I think their stories are extremely interesting for you to listen to. Because if you ever have thought about starting a business in your life, or if you might ever think about starting a business in the long run, these guys' stories, they're gonna be motivational, they're gonna be inspiring, they're gonna tell you how they did it and potentially how you could do it as well. So without further ado, let me introduce you to these two guys. Tim, Dan, welcome to the show. I'm very, very happy to be partnered with both of you. And hey, thanks for joining me on set today.
Yeah, thank you, man. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Tim, let's start with you. Your story is incredible, right? And actually, before we get into the stories, let's just tell the audience about the products because they may not be familiar with your products. So Tim, what is Slabstrong?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I created was color-coded bumper sleeves for graded cards that not only make the cards look better, but they actually protect from dings and drops. And if you're just clumsy, maybe you're at a trade show at night at one of these great shows and it drops. So I just wanted to not only make the slabs cooler, but I really wanted to protect your investments.
Yeah, these things are great. I've got them all over my own personal collection. All of my PC cards are protected with these things, and they do truly work. Tim, actually how we met was you throwing a card at my feet during a card show, and I was completely startled, but sure enough, nothing happened to the card, and since then, we've thrown them together, and even if you throw one of these cards around, not that I recommend that at home, but if you throw one of these cards around, it does protect your graded card.
Right, I couldn't just tell people, hey, trust me, if they fall, they're gonna be okay. And it's probably the most fun experience I've ever had pushing this product, and literally being able to do my pitch and throw it at people's feet and make them look at my product and make them question it. So I've just had a lot of fun doing it that way.
It is a good sales pitch indeed. And Dan, tell everybody about stand-up displays and what you do.
Yep, so I generated a way to either economically or customizably display your cards. So if you're a breaker or you have a brand, we can put your brand on the stand and show off to your customers. Or we have a more generic option, more economical way to display your cards if they're slabbed or in top loaders, etc.
And Dan made me my own custom sports card investor card stand right there, so you can put your cards in that, which is pretty outstanding. He can do that with any logo, and then of course just buying the simple ones in bulk are a great way if you want to show off 50 or 100 cards on a bookshelf. Yeah, even for top loaders there, you can see right there, that's a great way to display. Cool, awesome. Well, let's talk about your story because I really want everybody to hear this. I think it's just some great lessons. Tim, not only do you not have a background in entrepreneurship, but you were working totally different type of thing. You were a bartender, a restaurant manager, doing various things like that, right? How the heck did you get into starting Slabstrong?
Well, so I've been collecting as far back as I could remember, and then I just started seeing the slabs go up in value, and at that point I still just wanted to make it look cool. That was my only motivation, is how do we make people feel their own collection is their own, right? And then because of the value of these things, it's like, well, wait a minute, they can't be damaged because there is a fee to get them re-slabbed or sending it out, even in packaging. Sending them in packaging might help. So yeah, it was simply about that kind of necessity of wanting your own collection to be cool, and on top of that, protecting your investment.
But you had no background in product manufacturing. So you just have this idea of, I want to create, protective bumper cases for cards, but how did you get that idea from something in the back of your mind? And this is what so many people struggle with, right? There's probably 10,000 people watching this video right now that have some idea, whether it has to do with sports cards or something else, but they don't know how to get it out of their minds and actually make something like this happen.
Yeah, so it was very new for me too. The way I did it was I stopped listening to kind of the devil on the shoulder, like, hey, you know, go back to work, get a secure job. But through the pandemic, I learned, you know, work for yourself, right? So the first thing I did was I had the idea, I took a Cricut machine, took some stickers, took a screw down and made it look like the frame. And from there, I just thought it looked beautiful. And then that what really gave me the motivation to keep going. Take the idea out of my head, put it on the actual product, no matter how it was gonna get there, and then just keep pushing and just keep showing people and just keep selling.
So you essentially built your own prototype, just using kind of materials you had that you could piece together?
Right.
But then at some point you had to get them professionally produced. So I assume you had to go find a manufacturer. It's probably the first time you've ever done anything like that.
Oh yeah, and that was, you know, all trial and error, right? So the first thing, I went to a 3D printer. The second thing I did was realize that was too brittle, so now I have to find an injection mold, which then I had to learn what injection mold really meant and really learn that process. And I found some great guys in Utah to do that for me, but that was another process. You really have to call around, but the main thing is you really got to take the idea and just put yourself out there. There's no other way to do it, because at the end of the day, if I never showed anybody, I wouldn't be anywhere. You really just have to have that self-confidence of just get out there and do it. And even if you don't, you know what? Do it anyways. Try it. You'll get over it.
One of the things that you've done an outstanding job at, and you know, when I invest in a company, like many investors, I'm always looking at the founders and I'm trying to assess what are their strengths and you know, what strengths could we continue to build on, right? And right away with Tim, one of the things that impressed me is I'm like, oh, this guy is a go-getter and a relationship builder, right? And you were at card show after card show after card show, showing no fear, willing to, you know, walk up to anybody, talk to anybody, throw your slab at the feet of anybody. And in a pretty short period of time, it seems like you built a lot of relationships and you got this product in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, so when showing people, it turned into, for me, I knew it was a good idea, but you still have to prove the market, right? I can't just hold the idea to myself because I would never get anywhere. So I decided in the first Dallas trip, I looked at my fiance and said, I'm gonna go throw it at the sports card investor. And she took out her camera and that's how we met, was literally, I threw it at your feet. I remember you reaching for my slab. I took it out of my hoodie and you reached for it and I just threw it at your feet. And I just remember your reaction. And that was part of my motivation of like, well, hold on a second. I'm showing everybody and they're Tim, that's a great idea. We love the colors and all this. And it's just been so beautiful to do that. And once I put myself out there in front of anybody, now I'm unstoppable.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, well, and you gain the confidence from doing it from those first interactions. And when Tim threw it at my feet, I will admit to you guys, I thought he was absolutely nuts. I thought it was nuts. But I picked the thing up and it instantly made sense to me because I'm like, you know, I carry my cell phone around all day. And I, of course, always have a case around my cell phone because I'm clumsy. And if I didn't have a case around my cell phone, this screen would have been cracked, you know, within the first hour of me owning my phone. So if I have a case around my cell phone, why wouldn't I have a case around my graded slabs? Because a lot of these cards are way more expensive than my cell phone. So to me, it just like kind of instantly made sense. And so when I saw what the product was and the fact that it didn't break when you threw it down to the ground, I'm like, this makes a ton of sense. So what a great product demonstration, you know, in terms of how that worked. Okay. I want to hear more from Dan too, but final question for you right now, because I think this is also one I really want the audience to hear. You started this during the pandemic, and you started this not under particularly good personal circumstances. Tell everybody that.
Yeah, so I had the idea, and I have a great fiance, so I asked her to marry me, right? And 2 hours later, she breaks her ankle. And from that point, besides the fact that it's in the middle of the pandemic, right? I lost my job. Now what do? It was total motivation of, I don't ever want to see my fiance go through it either, because she was a bartender. So now she can't work. I'm not working. And we really decided, and I can't thank her enough because I don't know if I would be here without her. She looked at me and said, go for it, right? So now I have her sitting next to me for 3 months in a cast. I have this idea and I just kept building and building, and her parents, my parents have all been behind me. And that's what's so beautiful about this is when you have people that are really pushing you to motivate, you can do anything. So now she's up walking around, she's at card shows now, so come say hi to her if you see us at a card show. But yeah, absolutely. We lost everything last year. $800 to my name when I met you, total. And left Dallas with so much confidence and motivation, and that's where we are today, and that's how we got here.
It's a great story. And by the way, I'm glad she said yes. You didn't tell people if she said yes or not, just that she broke her ankle. But she said yes, right?
People always ask me, like, did she say yes because she couldn't run away? I'm like, she said yes beforehand, and don't worry, everything's going to be good. Yeah, so you'll see her at shows. Come say hi to us.
Good clarification. And Dan, you've got a different type of story, but also for you, this is entrepreneurship's kind of a new thing. You came from the big corporate world, as a lot of people do, but it's really hard when you have a big corporate job and it pays well and you've got good benefits and you're successful and you've got a path up the corporate ladder. How do you leave that and do your own thing? But you did that.
When you're not afraid anymore, it's time. We waited and did this at night. My wife, like your fiance, has been a huge support network. She's put in the hours too. And when you're doing it at night and working during the day, you finally reach a point where you say, maybe we can start growing that side of the business a bit more so we can do this on our own. We actually had our third son, Owen, during the pandemic. And during my paternity leave, we said, let's see what we can do with this while I have the time. And it started by, maybe I can make $50 a week. Maybe I can do my car payment a week. And it got to the point where it's like, I think we have a real business. And that's when we said it was time to, give it a shot, walk away from the corporate job and see what we can do.
That's amazing. All during the pandemic too.
Yes.
I mean, isn't it crazy how, the pandemic was so hard on so many in so many different ways, yet at the same time, you have, it encouraged guys like yourselves to take a leap and to do something different and to be innovative and creative while you're at home, and it's some real good stuff came out of it as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
When you first came up with the idea of there needs to be a better way to display your cards.
Yep.
How did you go from just having that moment of thought to actually getting your first product created?
So the curiosity, like Tim had mentioned, is step one. So if you see a way that somebody's trying to execute something and you think of a better way to do it, if you can go figure out how to do it, that opens the door to creating a product that not just you need, but other people may want as well. So I had seen, when I was opening Pokemon cards with my sons, that there was no real engineered good solution for cards to display them. There was just those clear plastic easels. I had access to 3D printers from a previous hobby, so I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and design this and see what we can pull off. Once you have the design, I went on Etsy and said, well, maybe there's other people that want it. Next thing you know, we're selling thousands of these things, and we're transitioning from 3D printing to injection molding and going through different channels to bring it to more people.
How much, I'm just curious, how much does one of these 3D printers that you were using for your very first version of this, how much did that cost?
So the first one I bought was about $250.
So incredible. So literally your startup costs to start your business that has now turned into where you sell, tens of thousands of these stands.
Right.
Your startup cost was $250?
Correct, and an 8th grade CAD education.
So obviously a little bit of CAD education, right? So that is important to figure out how to do this. But I think that's such an important message for anyone who's listening, because a lot of people have this perception that in order to start a business, you have to have some type of mystical, deep expertise, and you also have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are certain types of businesses which require more funding than others. Certain types of products you may try to build. If you're gonna go try to build the next great automobile, yeah, you're gonna have to have some money behind you, right? But there are other types of businesses that you can get off the ground for very little money. And in Dan's example, $250 for a 3D printer, and then you start putting these things on Etsy, they start to sell, and then you start to, I assume you at that point are kind of reinvesting the cash flow.
Right.
You ended up, I remember, you started buying more printers. That was your scaling plan, right?
Yeah, so you can only go so far with that in your house. I think we're up to 14 of them now.
14 3D printers in your house.
Yep, and that's why we had to go to the injection molding to try to offload some of that demand. But yeah, we run a fleet of them. It's 24/7. It's a wild ride. It's amazing how far we've come from where we started.
That's a really cool story. That's a really cool story. And So you've got the custom stands where people can get their own, logo. I know this is real popular with like breakers and that type of thing, card shops. And then you've also got kind of the prefabricated ones. Which ones did you start with, and how have kind of both of those types evolved over time?
So we actually started with the generic ones, which I'll show here. And we were making these on 3D printers. This is what we were selling on Etsy. And then as technology developed in the 3D printer space, again, it's curiosity. I said, hey, let's give it a shot, see what it does. It turned into that. And like you said, that's almost become viral, where you see breakers have brake mats, they've got a backdrop, and now they all have stands. They're trading stands for companies that they're buddies with. Everybody's repping each other's brands. So we started with this, it turned into the 3D, and now it's just become almost a viral cultural thing within the breaker community.
Yeah, that's cool. And I know you've got other products planned down the road and everything like that. So it's really, really neat. These are cool stories. All right, so I want to ask both of you, for anybody who out there is maybe doing their first thing for the first time or thinking about starting it, what has gone maybe the easiest, and then what has gone easier than you expected it would, but then also what has been more difficult than you would expect it to be? Tim, why don't we start with you?
Well, I would say the most difficult thing for me was to go from managing someone else's business to managing myself on a daily basis, right? Because I was working at jobs where I would be onboarded and I would be trained, right? So I would know what to do. So it's also the funnest thing is also the scariest thing, right? Because there was no one to train me on how to sell my product. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, like I said before, you could either hold on to this idea and never show anybody and never put yourself out there, or just get it out and figure it out from there. So this whole time I've been figuring out as I go, right? I know I'm better at my numbers now, I'm better with margins, but I know my strength is selling. So that's where I go full force on, and then I get help in other areas. But I would say that, you really just have confidence in yourself and put yourself out there. And I would say that the money will come with that. I've always just been trying to be in a hobby with something I love, and the money will come afterward. Just do something you love, put yourself out there. Everything's gonna be all right at the end of the day.
Awesome, I love that. Dan, how about you?
So the hardest thing for me was coming from a big corporate job. There's so many people that have swim lanes. Now I effectively own all the swim lanes. So we're hiring, we are in a new facility, we're learning how to expand. And while we did that with the big company, now it's all on us, right? It's a team of 3 now. The easiest thing has been relationship building. This hobby is filled with so many great people, the breakers that we know, the people we meet at shows, yourself, everybody else. And that has just come so easily. I thought that was gonna be a lot harder than when I actually first started.
Cool. All right, one final question, and Dan, I'll start with you again on this one. One piece of advice that you could give to somebody watching if they're maybe thinking about starting their own thing, or if they're in the early stages of doing it. Dan, one piece of advice that you would give.
A problem that you face is a problem that you need to solve.
A problem that you face is a problem that you need to solve. I love that, because so many of the best business ideas come from pains that people face in their own life, or come from challenges that people have, or a desire that somebody has to do something, and and there's no great way to do it. And it can be something literally as simple as, how do I display my sports card? How do I display it? On the top of a desk, on the top of a bookshelf, right? And there you go, a problem there that can be solved. Yep. Tim, how about you? One piece of advice from your side.
Yeah, I would say at this point for me, the only way to fail is to never try. So put yourself out there. Even in failing, you'll learn something. I learn something new every day. So just have confidence in yourself, have a great team around you, and just be confident. Get yourself out there, and don't be afraid to tell people your idea. Not everyone's gonna buy it, not everyone's gonna like it, but show confidence, be yourself, just stay loyal to yourself.
Awesome, guys. I really appreciate it. And for anybody out there who might want to check out Tim and Dan's products and support what they're doing, Tim, slabstrong.com.
Yes, sir.
And all these different colors available, promo code SCI,
yes.
10% off.
Right.
That's special for the audience. Promo code SCI, 10% off anything on slabstrong.com.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And Dan, you're standupdisplays.co.
Correct.
All right, we got make sure co, not .com. So standupdisplays.co. And I know you're doing 10% off. Is it site-wide as well?
Site-wide, yes.
Again, with promo code SCI.
Correct.
Awesome. So that's an extra little benefit for anybody who's watching there as well. Awesome, guys. This has been great. Hopefully the audience got some great kind of entrepreneurial takeaways from both of you. Follow both of these guys as well. If you want to talk to them, if you want to hear more about their story, follow these two guys. Tell them how they can find you on social.
Yeah, I would say the easiest way and the most way I have fun is on Instagram, so slab_strong. You can also follow at Slabstrong, but if you want to talk directly to me, ask any questions, we can have a lot of fun, slab_strong.
Cool.
And I'm at Stand Up Displays on Instagram and Facebook.
And your wife, by the way, also an Instagram star.
Mrs. Stand Up Displays.
Mrs. Stand Up Displays.
And
so
she might be the better one to go to. I know she's going to be our communications director.
There you go. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this today, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out slabstrong.com and standupdisplays.co. Support these guys. Use that promo code SCI for 10% off. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. Hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon so we can continue to bring you great episodes such as this one. Thanks for watching. See you back in a couple of days with our next one. Take care.